It's a vast pottery army which is slowly being unearthed from the tomb where it's lain for more than 2,000 years.
Buried beneath the dusty soil of Xi'an, thousands of clay warriors stand frozen in silence, guarding their emperor even in death. For centuries, China's legendary Terracotta army has been hailed as one of the world's greatest archaeological treasures. But hidden within these ancient statues lies a secret no one could ever decode. Until now. With the power of artificial intelligence, researchers have uncovered inscriptions and markings etched deep into the warriors, long overlooked or dismissed as random imperfections. What these messages reveal is more than history. It's a prophecy so unsettling, it feels as though it was written for our world today. What warnings did the craftsmen of the Terracotta army leave behind? How did their hidden script survive for over 2,000 years? And why does their chilling vision echo our present so perfectly? Join me on a journey into China's most guarded tomb, where AI breathes life into ancient whispers, and forgotten prophecies rise to confront the modern age. The mystery of the Terracotta Army. In 1974, a group of farmers digging a well near Xi'an stumbled upon what would soon become one of the most breathtaking archaeological discoveries of all time. At first, they thought they had unearthed ordinary pottery shards, but as excavation continued, the earth revealed row after row of life-sized clay soldiers, horses and chariots, an entire army sculpted in silence, buried for over 2 millennia. This was the Terracotta Army, built to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, who unified the nation in 221 BCE. The scale of the site is staggering. More than 8,000 warriors, each one uniquely crafted with distinct facial features, armor, and weaponry. Standing in formation, they reflect the emperor's power, ambition, and obsession with immortality. But beyond their sheer grandeur lies a deeper enigma. The Terracotta Army was not merely an extravagant funerary project. It was a message carved in clay, a silent testament to a ruler's fear of death and his desire to control fate. Some historians argue that the very act of creating thousands of guardians spoke of the emperor's paranoia, his mistrust of the living, and his reliance on the dead. What puzzled scholars most were the subtle marks and engravings scattered across the statues. Many of these were dismissed as artisan signatures or production codes, identifying workshops or craftsmen. Others appeared to be decorative motifs. For decades, these markings were catalogued but never truly deciphered, their meaning lost in the sands of time. Still, archaeologists couldn't shake the suspicion that there was more to these etchings than met the eye. Could it be that the Terracotta Army carried not just the story of Qin Shi Huang's reign, but hidden messages, warnings, prophecies, or sacred texts embedded by the craftsmen who built them? If so, the army wasn't just built to protect the emperor in the afterlife, but to communicate across time itself. And now, thanks to artificial intelligence, those long-muted whispers are finally being heard. The hidden inscriptions and the challenge of decoding them. At first glance, the Terracotta warriors seem like silent statues, their power lying in their sheer numbers and lifelike detail. But upon closer inspection, archaeologists noticed faint markings carved into the clay, symbols, scratches, and coded impressions that seemed far too deliberate to be random. Some were etched beneath armor plates, others hidden on the backs of statues, and still more concealed in the grooves of weapons. For decades, scholars catalogued these inscriptions but struggled to make sense of them. Many assumed they were nothing more than workshop stamps, simple identifiers showing which craftsman or unit built a particular soldier. After all, constructing thousands of warriors required a massive labor force, whole workshops working around the clock. Signatures and marks helped organize this production line, ensuring quality and accountability. But certain marks didn't fit this explanation. Some characters were stylized in ways that resembled ancient Chinese writing, but didn't correspond to any known script. Others were repeated across multiple figures, forming patterns too intentional to be dismissed as coincidence. And most puzzling of all, some markings appeared in places no one was ever meant to see, inside hollowed torsos, beneath clay layers, or etched faintly before being sealed in the kiln. If these were simply labels, why hide them? Why encode messages where only future eyes could discover them? The challenge for researchers was immense. Unlike later Chinese calligraphy, which evolved into standardized characters, these inscriptions were irregular, fragmented, and symbolic. Some bore resemblance to early Chinese pictographs, while others seemed abstract, like ritual symbols or coded glyphs. Without a Rosetta Stone to compare against, decoding them became a game of educated guesswork. Archaeologists turned to linguists, historians, and cryptographers for help. They compared the symbols to contemporaneous texts, cross-referenced them with bronze inscriptions from the Qin era, and even looked at folk patterns from ancient villages. Still, much of the script remained undeciphered. To complicate matters further, the inscriptions were brief, sometimes only a symbol or two, leaving too little context for definitive translation. For nearly half a century, the markings on the Terracotta army remained an unsolved puzzle. Were they truly just bureaucratic notations, or had the craftsmen embedded secret warnings into their creations? If so, what were they trying to say? This mystery lingered until artificial intelligence entered the picture, bringing with it the power to detect patterns invisible to the human eye. The power of AI and how it decoded the Terracotta script. For decades, the faint carvings on the Terracotta army were treated as an unsolvable riddle, too fragmented and inconsistent for human scholars to crack. But in recent years, a new ally joined the quest. Not another historian or archaeologist, but artificial intelligence. AI brought a fresh perspective to a problem that had defied traditional methods. Instead of manually comparing symbols, AI could analyze enormous data sets in seconds, spotting patterns no human could ever hope to see. Researchers digitized thousands of high-resolution images of the terracotta inscriptions, including those previously dismissed as scratches or imperfections. Each image was fed into machine learning models, teaching the system to recognize strokes, shapes, and repetitions across the vast army of clay soldiers. At first, the results were modest. The AI could identify consistent marks and group them by similarity, essentially confirming the idea that some were indeed workshop identifiers. But then, as the dataset grew and algorithms became more refined, something extraordinary happened. The AI began to detect clusters of symbols that reappeared not randomly, but in sequences, like fragments of a coded language. Some marks aligned closely with ancient Chinese characters, but in archaic, pre-standardized forms. Others seemed to evolve across different warriors, as if they were variations of the same word or phrase. Even more intriguing, the AI noticed that these symbols often appeared on soldiers placed in specific positions within the army's formation, suggesting a hidden order, a message embedded into the very layout of the emperor's clay legions. What set the AI apart from human interpreters was its ability to cross-reference this data with other historical sources. It compared the marks to inscriptions on Qin-era bronze vessels, bamboo slips, and even early Han Dynasty texts. The more it learned, the clearer the picture became. These were not random artisan signatures, but fragments of a coherent script. In some cases, the AI reconstructed missing portions of symbols worn away by time, predicting their likely shapes with remarkable accuracy. Where humans had only fragments, the AI restored whole characters. Where humans saw scratches, the AI uncovered intention. And then came the breakthrough. Among the countless inscriptions, a particular set of recurring symbols stood out. When pieced together, they formed a chilling message, one unlike anything ever found on Qin Dynasty artifacts before. It was not a record of craftsmanship. It was not an oath of loyalty to the emperor. It was something far darker, a prophecy, the forgotten prophecy unearthed. As the AI sifted through the vast database of markings, one sequence of symbols began to take shape, recurring across multiple warriors in different pits. At first glance, it looked like scattered fragments, meaningless scratches shared by statues built in separate workshops. But when digitally aligned, the fragments formed complete inscriptions, an interconnected message carried across dozens of figures. The translation stunned researchers. The inscription spoke of a shadow over heaven's mandate, a phrase heavy with political and cosmic weight in ancient China. In Qin times, the mandate of heaven was the divine approval that justified an emperor's rule. To lose it was to invite chaos, rebellion, and collapse. The prophecy declared that this mandate would one day fracture, and with it, the empire itself. The symbols described disasters that would follow: rivers turning against the land, harvests failing in cycles of drought and flood, and disease rising from the soil to sweep through the people. The most haunting line referred to armies without masters marching in confusion, a chilling vision of war and disorder spreading uncontrollably. What shocked modern readers was how closely these warnings mirrored contemporary fears. The disruption of rivers and harvests echoes today's climate crises, where floods and droughts destabilize nations. The mention of disease resonates with recent global pandemics, and armies without masters evokes images of fractured politics, civil conflicts, and leaderless movements tearing societies apart. Skeptics argued the prophecy was simply allegorical, a metaphor for the downfall of Qin Shi Huang himself, whose empire collapsed shortly after his death. But the AI's cross-referencing suggested otherwise. The language was too broad, too timeless, to be confined to a single political collapse. These weren't just predictions of Qin's downfall. They were warnings about cycles of turmoil, patterns that would repeat throughout human history. Even more unsettling was where these inscriptions were located. Many were hidden on warriors positioned at the outer edges of the army, as if the craftsmen were deliberately concealing the warnings at the very boundaries of the emperor's protection. It raised disturbing questions. Did the artisans secretly embed this prophecy as an act of defiance? Were they warning future generations of dangers to come? Or were they performing a kind of spiritual insurance, placing a message for the distant future in case Qin's empire truly could not last? The revelation transformed the Terracotta army from a funerary monument into something far more mysterious. A coded time capsule carrying warnings across millennia. Reactions and implications in the modern world. The discovery of a hidden prophecy within the Terracotta Army sent shockwaves far beyond the academic community. What had once been celebrated purely as a masterpiece of ancient craftsmanship was suddenly reframed as a vessel of forbidden knowledge, carrying messages that seemed to echo into the present day. For historians and archaeologists, the breakthrough was both thrilling and unsettling. On one hand, it showcased the power of AI to illuminate the past in ways once thought impossible. For the first time, fragments that had languished in obscurity could be assembled into coherent meaning. On the other hand, the content of the prophecy sparked heated debates. Was it truly a foresight of future calamities, or were modern scholars projecting their anxieties onto ancient metaphors? Some experts argued that the prophecy was merely a reflection of the Qin dynasty's political climate. Qin Shi Huang's empire was notorious for its brutality, rapid expansion, and harsh laws. Fear of collapse, rebellion, and famine were real concerns of the time. The inscriptions, they said, were less a prediction of distant events and more a commentary on the fragility of power in their own era. But others were less convinced. The prophecy's references to failing rivers, cycles of natural imbalance, and diseases spreading among the people seemed far too broad, too universal, to be explained away as local politics. Instead, they pointed to the possibility that the craftsmen who created the warriors were embedding timeless warnings about the vulnerabilities of human society, warnings that continue to resonate in the modern age. The public, meanwhile, was captivated. News outlets ran headlines suggesting the Terracotta Army had predicted climate change and global pandemics. Documentaries and podcasts rushed to cover the story, framing it as evidence that ancient wisdom still had relevance for today's world. Social media lit up with speculation. Were these inscriptions acts of rebellion by oppressed workers? A coded resistance hidden in plain sight? Or perhaps an attempt by the artisans to speak across centuries, leaving a message for people they could never imagine? Philosophers and spiritual thinkers took the conversation further. If the prophecy was meant as a cycle, rise, fall, and renewal, it raised profound questions about fate and free will. Are societies destined to repeat the same mistakes, or can recognition of the pattern help us change course? And if AI, a tool of the modern age, was required to unlock this message, could it be that the prophecy itself was designed to remain hidden until a future time when humanity was ready to hear it? Yet the discovery also triggered ethical concerns. Some scholars warned against sensationalism, urging the public to remember that AI is only as good as the data it's trained on. Algorithms can identify patterns, but interpretation still requires human judgment. If treated recklessly, the prophecy could be twisted into fear-mongering or political agendas, rather than careful historical analysis. Still, one truth became undeniable. The Terracotta Army was no longer just a silent testament to an emperor's quest for immortality. It had become a dialogue between past and present, urging modern societies to reflect on their own fragility, resilience, and responsibility. The future of AI in archaeology and ancient secrets. The decoding of the Terracotta Army's hidden inscriptions is more than a single breakthrough. It signals the beginning of a new era in archaeology. For centuries, the study of the past depended on slow excavation, painstaking transcription, and human interpretation. Now, with artificial intelligence, researchers can accelerate discovery, reconstruct lost histories, and reveal secrets once thought beyond reach. Already, AI is transforming how archaeologists approach ancient mysteries worldwide. The same pattern recognition technology that unraveled the terracotta marks is being applied to other undeciphered scripts. The cryptic symbols of the Indus Valley, the linear A tablets from Crete, and even forgotten Mayan glyphs. Where human experts struggle with fragmented evidence and centuries of linguistic drift, AI thrives by scanning massive datasets, comparing across cultures, and predicting missing links. Beyond language, AI is reshaping the way we uncover physical history. Satellite imagery, paired with machine learning, is mapping ancient roads, cities, and ruins hidden beneath jungles and deserts. Drones equipped with AI are scanning landscapes that would take human surveyors years to explore. Algorithms are now capable of identifying anomalies in soil and vegetation patterns that point to buried structures, sometimes entire civilizations concealed beneath our feet. Even more astonishing is how AI is being used to digitally resurrect the past. Advanced 3D modeling and virtual reality allow lost worlds to be reconstructed with unprecedented accuracy. Imagine stepping into a fully restored Qin Dynasty tomb, walking among the terracotta warriors as they once stood in their pristine glory, or hearing AI-generated recreations of the sounds and rituals of ancient courts. For students, researchers, and the public, history is no longer confined to books and ruins. It becomes an immersive experience. But with this technological power comes responsibility. The deeper AI digs into cultural heritage, the more questions arise. Who controls the narratives it produces? How do we prevent bias or distortion from shaping our understanding of ancient peoples? And how do we respect the cultures to whom these artifacts belong, ensuring their voices are not overshadowed by algorithms? One possibility on the horizon is AI-driven predictive modeling. By studying the cycles of collapse and renewal in ancient societies, famines, pandemics, wars, AI may help us recognize patterns still at work today. If history truly repeats itself, perhaps the past, decoded through technology, can serve as a warning system for the future. The hidden prophecy of the Terracotta Army may be just one example of how ancient messages can illuminate modern vulnerabilities. In the end, the fusion of AI and archaeology does more than decode symbols. It bridges time, creating a dialogue between civilizations separated by thousands of years. The terracotta warriors, once mute guardians of a dead emperor, now speak again, not to defend a tomb, but to remind us of humanity's fragile balance between power, fate, and survival. The Terracotta Army has always stood as a symbol of power, ambition, and mystery, a silent legion guarding its emperor for eternity. But with the help of artificial intelligence, we now know it was more than a funerary monument. Hidden within its clay ranks lay a message carved across time, a prophecy meant not just for Qin Shi Huang, but perhaps for all of us. It reminds us that history is not merely about what is past, but about what continues to echo. The fears of collapse, disease, and imbalance that haunted ancient craftsmen are the same challenges we face today. In their warnings, we see ourselves, vulnerable yet capable of reflection and change. The fusion of ancient wisdom and modern technology is not just rewriting history, it is reshaping our relationship with it. The terracotta warriors, once locked in silence, now speak again, urging us to listen, to learn, and to prepare. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed uncovering this chilling secret of the Terracotta Army, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it helps us keep bringing you stories where the past collides with the future.